Well, good morning or good afternoon to you, depending on where you might be joining us from here today. Thank you so much for spending what's going to be about an hour with us here for the best practices for order management in Spire and with our guests, OrderEase and order automation. We're going to get right into it here. Just before I move on to my next slide, I'd love it if you folks in the audience could raise your little virtual hand just to confirm that you can both hear my voice and see my opening slide deck. Alan and Anita and Bob and Debbie. Okay, great. Thank you so much. You're all very good at following direction. That's fantastic. Whoa, lots of hands. I'm going to go ahead and lower everyone's hand. Thank you very much for your participation there. I appreciate that. My name is Katie Griffin. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Spire. I've been with Spire for, oh my goodness, almost 4 years already, but have been in the accounting software business for the better part of 20 years, as a matter of fact. And I'm joined by Vicki Lawrence, who is the VP of Customer Experiences and Partnerships at OrderEase. And I've had the pleasure of working with Vicki for as long as I've been here at Spire. Vicki, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing, Katie?
Good. I'm good. It's Thursday, which means tomorrow's Friday. Can't complain. So
yeah, exactly. Spring's coming.
Spring is coming also, absolutely. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that you all can see that here. Perfect. There we go. So without further ado, I'm just going to go into a little bit of housekeeping here. This is the first of a series of podcast style webinars that we're hosting here at Spire with different integration partners who are going to be our guests, different ones throughout the series. These webinars are really designed for you to think outside of the box. They're not necessarily deep dive training in any kind of way, but we are going to go over some nice little Spire tips and thoughts and kind of best practices that you should consider. I'd like you to keep in mind that we have a very large mixed audience here today. 130 people signed up for this webinar, and they all vary in terms of their software journey and where they are. Some people are not yet using Spire. Some people are new to Spire, and I do recognize some names in the audience where you are a Spire veteran, and you might know more about Spire than I do even. So just understand that it is a mixed audience and it's impossible for us to cover everything for everybody. So at a very general level, we're going to bring you some helpful information that you'll be able to apply in your day-to-day practice. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, because of the volume of people that are here and because we want to keep the presentation flowing, I'll ask you to jot down your questions on your own end and contact your Spire partner with any questions that you have. They really are your Spire expert, hands-on, boots on the ground people for you. And if you're not yet using Spire and you want to have more details and information, I will offer my contact information towards the end of today's session. So here we go. We're going to talk about sales orders, best practices, order automation, all of that good stuff. And I'm so glad that my friend Vicki is here, because she really is an expert when it comes to talking about and knowing about multi-channel sales orders. So in the world that businesses live in today, Vicki, they're not just getting orders in one way, right? Like, no. I mean, there are still some businesses that have walk-ins and the good old telephone order coming in, but really more and more businesses are receiving orders through email, whether it's a PDF attachment or even just a note. E-commerce, various different kinds of web stores are existing today. Facebook, Amazon, like Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, Linktree, you know, and then of course, if you're dealing with big box stores, you've got all of the EDI requirements that these businesses are making you be a part of. So no longer do the days exist of just, hi, I'd like to place an order, please. And if they do, it's almost the easiest way at this point, right? So right. In your experience, you know, what are some of the challenges that businesses are facing when it comes to orders with all these different marketplaces, all these different channels? How are businesses struggling?
Yeah, well, you know what, you're right, Katie. Now is more than ever extensive in all the different ways a company can get an order. Like it completely exploded in COVID times, when people were scrambling, trying to figure out how do I sell when we can't go into stores and we're on lockdown. So the transition to digital commerce just it went light years ahead of what it would have been had COVID not happened. So with that, people are still trying to catch up. It's 5 years later. Holy crap, 5 years later. But it's people are still, learning and navigating and trying to scale their business because it's not the way it traditionally used to be. And with that, they do find the complexities of, our society's turned into this, I need it now. Even our wholesale purchasers, I need it now kind of society. So they don't want to wait a week to get their shipment or wait, whatever for the turnaround time. Now shipments are expected to happen right away. So a complexity for shipping happens when you don't have that connectivity from where your order is coming from into your ERP or your shipping solution. And if you don't have that, it all falls apart, or you have to have somebody, like many people in your organization, that are on it all the time. So again, it's that volume of orders, and it's not just the volume of orders, it's also the breadth of where the orders are coming from. So that's where it's hard for these companies to be able to scale and grow their operations, because they need to figure out how to get the manpower to deal with all these different places they have to go to get the orders, make the adjustments on the orders, update the inventory, and all the things that happen with the order. I'm sure you all know that there's a lot of things.
A lot of
So
things,
again,
yeah.
that's really where it comes down to. It's becoming a major pain point because there's just not enough time in the day, and then there's not people don't want to do it. People don't want to be the employee who's just logging in and out of portals. So now's the time to figure out, how do we solve that problem?
Yeah, everything in one place, easy to
Yeah,
access, and not everybody has the same permissions within an organization or the same
no,
roles within an organization, and nor should they, for that matter, right? But yeah, necessity is the mother of invention, referring back to those days where we were all trapped in our homes and buying things online because we were incredibly bored.
yeah,
And absolutely, we definitely have to adapt as businesses. That need it now sense of urgency that buyers have, even at a B2B level. We can thank Jeff Bezos for that, and the Amazon
right.
experience of having everything at our fingertips, no matter where we are. So yeah,
Yeah,
lots of challenges, and folks, we're going to get into how OrderEase can help you solve some of those challenges that your business might be facing a little later on in the webinar today. They really are the experts for multi-channel sales orders that are an approved integration Spire partner. I've had the pleasure of talking to Spire customers who are using OrderEase and have investigated the solution and are happy with the implementation. So we'll talk a little bit more about all the different ways that Spire via OrderEase can work for you, whether you are, doing your own e-commerce platform or something through WooCommerce and Shopify, how that, tails into the shipping aspect, UPS, if that's one of the couriers you're using, or others that you may be using. And so we'll hand it over to Vicky in just a little bit, but I'm
yeah.
going to
Well,
start.
one thing, Katie, before you get
Yeah,
into your next
sure.
part is,
Yeah.
as everybody's here going through it and thinking about it, just get a picture in your mind of OrderEase is that data funnel. You put the data funnel in between Spire and all those different sales channels where it comes in. It's inbound and outbound data funnel, normalizing the data. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Getting rid of that siloed
Yeah,
system
yeah,
kind of thing, and that's something that people are struggling with all over the place. And I think it's one of the nice aspects of Spire. If you're not yet using Spire or you're new to Spire, we have what's called a REST API that allows for very seamless integrations, and that is what OrderEase is. Integration is built through, is Spire's API. Vicky and I get to chat, every other month, and she gets to share with me what's new in OrderEase, and then I'll say, yeah, you can do this now with Spire. And Vicky gets, as the last time we talked, you were very excited, as a matter of fact. So we'll head into just a little bit of the Spire aspect things, because before you start implementing an integration, there's some fundamental things in Spire that you probably want to have locked down. And For those of you who are not new to Spire, I may not be sharing anything new with you, or it's an opportunity for you to reconsider some of the things that you have going on there. And so the first thing that I want to bring your attention to is internal processes. So important. You know, software can only do so much. How you build your processes around the functionality within the software is really an integral part of your day-to-day business. So, you know, policies, what kind of policies are you facing when it comes to order management? Is it regulatory compliance? If you're in the medical equipment business, for example, you know, there's definitely some regulatory compliance that you might have there. If you're selling into other countries, that could also be applicable. So what are the steps in processing an order around that? And again, if you're dealing with big box stores like a Sobeys or a Loblaws or a Canadian Tire, their policies are you have to send this through EDI or you won't get paid. I know a customer who was at the mercy of one of these big box stores and held a very high receivables balance because they were, again, all locked up and couldn't get that EDI thing going until a good solution came into play. So what kind of policies are you faced with? And then what are your own internal policies? You know, what are your rules around placing orders and submitting orders in terms of how your staff handles that? And when we talk about how staff handles that, phases, because not everybody orders the same way, and you don't sell all of your products the same way. Maybe you manage returns, and there's a whole other aspect as to what phases are involved in those returns, quotes perhaps. Keeping track of all of that, being able to prioritize all of that in a systematic way is very important. Obviously, the things I'm talking about are doable in Spire, and I will be diving into a little bit of that shortly. Codes, you know, the naming convention, the consistency and clarity of standardizing naming conventions and codes just is such a good bottom line basic practice. I don't know how many of you have ever come across, you know, one staff member has typed in a customer code with 2 alphanumerics and 3 numerics followed by, you know, asterisks and exclamation marks and I don't know what, and then, you know, the next staff member is just doing ABC 1 2. Like it, you have to have consistency in your codes, whether that's your customer codes, your inventory codes, your vendor codes, even note-taking codes. Like anything should have consistency and clarity because it'll allow you to link information much easier, especially when we're talking about integrations. That integration, like OrderEase, is going to be pointed into Spire to look for certain things. And if your naming convention on any of your codes is inconsistent, well, that'll make Vicky and her friend's job a little bit harder. Okay, so think about your codes and meaningful design. Right? We all work within particular modules depending on what our roles are, whether you're using Spire or not, and meaningful design is very important. So whether you're using color, and I don't know if you know this, but color activates the visual cortex part of your brain, and this is, you know, the area where your perception kicks in, being able to organize, being able to problem solve, faster decision making, all of these things. So, you know, using columns properly, what you need to see in terms of data according to your role, highlighting things to add a sense of urgency to them. These are all really good internal process points that you should consider. Others are user permissions, right? So like I said earlier, not everybody should be allowed to do everything within your organization, even at sales level. The person who takes the order may not necessarily be the person who is processing the order, may not necessarily be the person who is picking the order or packing the order over there at your business. And so sometimes we think that, you know, role-based permissions are simply can and cannot do, right? Well, it can be more complex than that. And so think about the phases that you have in your order processes and what are the user permissions and the roles that these people have and what they should have access to. And then where does it bottleneck because there's too much approval of things required in your processes. Maybe you just need to review something and what control mechanisms are in place in order for you to be able to do that. Sometimes there are errors made on orders that have been posted that now need to be backtracked and go into the ledger to be able to correct some of that information. So certain mechanisms that you might have in place for approvals and reviews might be a little bit better for you. And then, things like credit limit. You've got salespeople who are eager to meet their quota perhaps, but the customer has exceeded their credit limit. Should that salesperson be allowed to approve over credit or not, right? You should have controls like that in place. And then, for those who have a lot on their plate and need reminders and must do tasks assigned to them, these are also things that will help make a more fluid order management process. And then the last section I want to cover before I dive into Spire here real quick is, customer considerations. What kind of things are your customers asking you for or need to have when they are placing an order with you? And customer service is huge. You want repeat business. We all want repeat business, right? And so tailoring the order management process to your customer types and the needs that they require. Maybe you're strictly business to business. Maybe you're business to consumer. Maybe you're both. And what are the workflows around that given the type of customer that you have? You can segment them regarding location. You can segment them regarding type. And so that might affect the speed of the order being processed, the type of service that you're giving. Pricing, of course, comes into effect here depending on the kind of customer that might be. And then, in terms of how they place their orders with you, right? Do they have customer specific part numbers? There are certain types of businesses out there that are in highly competitive industries where their customers are shopping around for the lowest price all the time. And if you're retaining the manufacturer's SKU or product number on that, then maybe your competitor is also, and it's super easy to go and see that, they're selling the same thing and maybe you get undercut or maybe whatever. It's highly competitive. And so assigning customers a customer specific number, or they're asking you for a customer specific number and being able to access that information. Maybe they absolutely need to have POs in every order that they place with you, or you want them to. It's a policy of yours perhaps, and you don't want an order to go through without there being a PO. So a lot of other, things in terms of how they process their orders or how they place their orders with you need to be considered. And then who's who, right? Who at your customers is allowed to make these orders? Who is the person who makes payment? You can have a buyer from an organization. Obviously, it's not always the same person that's in accounting, or maybe there's a different approval process on that end. Maybe it's the owner and that owner does everything within the organization, but knowing who's who in order to be able to not only process the order properly, but add to that customer satisfaction level in terms of how you communicate. Some people change employees like a revolving door, right? And so it's important to maintain those contacts. And then what kind of special instructions might you need to place on an order for a particular customer? Shipping preferences. I want the blue box instead of the pink box, for example. I mean, I'm sure they get way more complicated than that, but that's a simple example, right? And so there's a lot of different things that you need to consider when you are thinking about all the different management processes that are in place. So with that, I'm going to jump into Spire here very quickly and show you a few things. Hey, Vicki, can you see my Spire screen up?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No
So
problem.
if I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I'm looking at Spire here. So one of the things I just want to highlight here are phases. I talked about phases a little bit earlier. So when I open up an existing sales order, this might look very familiar to all of you over here. And I'm not going to get into everything, guys, but I want to focus on some of the points that we talked about. When I click on phases over here at the right-hand side, it opens up all the possible phases that I could have pertaining to an order. Now, in Spire, we do more than just sales orders. There's sales orders, there's invoicing, standing orders, return merchandise authorization, quotes, all that kind of stuff. And so your phases would pertain to all of those different types of orders that you have when you're creating them. And creating a phase is very simple. You'll hit the new button here to be able to create a phase. You want to give it a code. Again, codes matter. Maybe they want to be very indicative of what the phase is in particular, or maybe 001 is standardized throughout your organization. And then a description of what that phase is all about. You can also then create a bit of a workflow with the next phase process, and I'll show you how that works in just a little bit. But when you do hit the next phase button on your screen, it can, if you indicate which report is associated to that, bring that up for you right away. So it's a little less manual work in terms of order flow. But the phases are really nice to use if they're used properly. I think you have to apply a lot of logic in terms of what that sales order life is like, who is allowed to do what, who is in charge of the next step in that, because there are user permissions that surround that. And I will talk about where you can set some of those user permissions a little later on, as well as access where those report codes can be reached from, right? So phases, really useful, super helpful, okay? When we talk about approvals as well, again, not everybody necessarily has the permission to do certain things in Spire, as well as perhaps not being allowed to post directly. And as your organization grows, it's harder and harder to have certain controls over, who does what sometimes. If you're standing there watching what everyone's doing over their shoulder, then that's kind of creepy. But if you need to have a better verification process than that, you might want to consider batches at your sales order level. And so batches are a really nice way that you can have the ability to edit or approve before anything is actually posted to the ledger. And so in my phases, I've included just a batch approval phase here. And when you have batches turned on, and again, I'll show you how to do that a little bit later, you can highlight the transactions that you want to create a batch for. Creating a batch will generate an invoice number, but it won't post it to the subledger of receivables, and it won't post it to the GL. You'll have to have that approval to be able to do that, or do that within posting a batch. So I'm just going to take the 3 here that don't have an invoice yet, and I'm going to create a batch from them. And when you're creating a batch, you can choose to create a new one, add to an existing one. You can also do closed orders. Let's say you've already invoiced those and they've been approved. And then simply click print batch report. I'm going to say okay. It's going to create an over credit limit. It's asking me if I want to do that, and I do, and it's giving me an error, probably because the quantity does not match the ship quantity, which is good, right? We want to be able to see, why can't I post that batch? What's wrong with that batch? Instead of it hitting right away to the ledger. This one here, I may choose to add it to an existing batch. I can go ahead and view the batch list. I can say, okay, this is the batch that I want to be able to post if I have the permissions to do that. I can go ahead and reopen something if it is in a batch and be able to make any corrections that I need to do because perhaps they were not entered correctly. And so being able to go ahead and do that will allow you to print the trial. You may decide that you want to attach that to oops, sorry, getting another error there, but you may decide that you want to attach that for approval. And in your calendar and communications, you can create that task to be approved for the person who's responsible for doing that. And in there, I've got my report of the batches, the invoices within that batch that I need approved. And that later on can then say, yes, I've completed this task, thank you so much, and go back and be able to continue on with the orders. Not everybody has the ability to post batches. Not everybody should have the ability to post batches. And so that's something that you may want to consider if it's useful for you. When we talk about codes, codes exist, again, everywhere. And whether it's in notes and communications, like I was just in here before, or it's in your phases, or it's in your inventory codes, whatever the case may be, again, put some thought into those codes, right? And so these are just more workflow-like codes that you can go ahead and create and easily edit them if you need to, or be able to create some more with that universal plus button that exists. But sometimes, again, as I said earlier, you may have a customer code that has been entered in incorrectly, not to your naming convention. And so the ability to change customer codes, to change vendor codes and inventory codes is also something that not everybody should have access to, but is something that you can do in Spire. And again, those codes should have some meaning for you. Perhaps it is the first three alpha characters of a customer name, and then a sequence of numbers that signifies something unique in your organization. Perhaps it's the 1001 means everyone in Vancouver, for example, at a very simple level. And so once you go ahead and you apply those changes, they will be retained in Spire, again, whether that's vendor, customer, or inventory. Right here as well, vendor code change and inventory in inventory code change. Now, again, not everybody should be able to do this, and it does require some thought that's put into that. So beyond just note codes or phase codes, you definitely want to think about what goes into that. Importing this is also able to be done in Spire because it might be a much larger project for you, but this is definitely an area where you need to work with your partner. This may look very simple, but there are some mapping requirements that exist, and again, thought into changing these customer codes and what that might be. So always work with your partner there. I talked about some customer specific requirements when it comes to placing orders, and we've got a lot of interesting things going on in the world right now, and people are probably going to get more and more strict in terms of how they place orders and who's allowed to place those orders. And so perhaps let's take a very real world example here. I don't mean to pick on, any of our friends in the United States by any means, but I'm definitely going to go into the customer module here, and I want to look for all of my customers that are in the USA, because I do have to maybe start thinking about some things over here when it comes to sending orders out that way. And so I've just done a quick filter. Filters are universal in Spire. I've asked for show me everyone that's in the United States. And at a bulk level, I may need to make some edits to all of these customers. And so I can select, or I can randomly select as well. But let's say I'm just going to go ahead and grab almost everything that's on my page here. And I want to do a mass edit here very quickly. And again, I have permission to do this, right? Perhaps I have territories. Here are, again, codes and where codes matter. I have a USA territory here. Now, territory doesn't necessarily have to be a geographical location. It can mean a bunch of different things in your world. Maybe I have a specific salesperson that is assigned to all of my US clients because they are going to have to work on customer relationships quite strongly. And perhaps a purchase order number is required for all of these customers now because that's a policy that I'm putting into play. And I need a special note on file so that my salespeople or my order intake people can actually be alerted to something unique about this subset of clients. And it'll be review freight charges, let's say, okay? And the customer type that they all are is USA customers. And just to look at those customer types again, you can categorize by type of business, location, grade of customer, whatever you'd like. Special code is something that is available to you at a more granular level if you wanted to really subset a group of clients even more so, okay? And maybe at a very quick high level, I have the ability to decide, you know what, I'm going to give everybody 5% off on their orders if they are US clients. I'm not going to mess with the pricing and the sell pricing, but I'm just going to quickly do that, okay? And these are some changes that I want to make very quickly at this bulk of clients here. So I'm going to hit OK, and you can see that now there's a special note in the special note column that says to review all of these clients and their freight changes, and that will come up when I'm placing an order. Maybe again, all of the customer types are now US customers. So a lot of little things that you can do to help alert to a situation. I'm going to go over now because I am I got to leave time for Vicky, you guys, but I am going to go over and just look at some company settings with you all to be able to just show you a couple of things. Number one, in your contact types under company, you want to identify the different types of customers or different roles that exist both internally and externally. Okay, so you can create those contact types there. Super important when you're emailing and communicating en masse with your customers. Spire allows that to happen quite nicely. Okay. Those report templates that I was talking about, where you're going to access the template naming of the report for that workflow next phase kind of automation, is right here under reports. And these are the names that you want to put into report, and that will automatically pop up when you click next phase if you've got the permissions to do that, right? In sales orders, because that's a lot of where we were focusing here today, and order processing phases, you want to be able to reset the phase. Once you've put that in, reset the phase right here for any back orders that you have. Also reset the phase down here for any standing orders that you may have. So that workflow process automatically gets reset for anything that's reoccurring or anything that's been back ordered, right? Also, batch posting is here if you are interested in turning batches on at a sales process to have a better approval system in place. Again, talk to your partner about what that means. It won't post to the ledger, like I said. Not everybody has permission to post batches as well. That's something that you want to look at. And then credit. What kind of credit checks do you want to be able to offer for your customers? And then when it comes to freight, you can have it pop up that if there's no freight charged, it'll give you a message. Spire will give you a message. There's zero freight being charged here. Is that something that you want to do? And again, given some of the changes that we're all experiencing, that might be something that is interesting for you. Okay. I'm now just going to quickly go over to some user permissions that are super important for all of this. We've got, I'm going to pick katydid. If you don't know what a katydid is, it's a bug. And I had a friend that used to call me that every now and then. So sales orders, I'm going to go over to the sales order module here. And there is a lot of permissions that are available to you. Some of the ones that I want to point out here today are add and edit sales orders, right? So add and edit sales orders here. You can change that so that it's exclusive to just a sales order or just a quote or just an RMA, depending on what the role of the person is, right? Allow change phase. I'm talking about workflow. Somebody may not be authorized to push it into that next phase. So that may or may not be something that you want for user permissions. And then similar but differently, allow increment phase, right? So for that to continue to flow or have those messages pop up through the next phase, those reports pop up through the next phase, that may not be something that you want everyone to have access to. Obviously, creating batches. Now, perhaps the person entering in the order is allowed to create a batch, but they're not allowed to post the batch, which we see here down there, post batch, okay? Customer default order type rather. So I never want to have to pick sales order, or I never want to have to pick quote. It should just automatically do that. It'll also default to a phase, and that may match the type of order that you're placing, right? And then being able to reopen and close orders, right? Whether they're, if they've been closed or processed, do you have the authority to reopen that and make certain changes, right? And then of course there are credit limits, right? What kind of credit limits should you be allowed to access in the Spire world? We've also got Spire Mobile, and all of those user permissions will be respected in Spire Mobile, okay? If you make it mandatory for a purchase order to be required, it will do so. Spire Mobile actually can be accessed from any browser as long as there's a secure connection. You can enter in orders, you can create quotes. There's a lot of room here to do things. So you can see special notes are there. This customer has a special note, use customer part numbers always. So a lot of different things that you can do to manage your sales orders. customers here. Okay. Vicki, I hear your dog just in time to say, your dog saying, hey, Katie, that's enough. Let my mom talk now. So thanks so much, everybody, for sitting through that. I hope those were some helpful tips for you. Vicki, let's turn it over to you. Okay. So now that a Spire customer has a strong foundation in terms of their codes and permissions and workflows and reminders and all of that good stuff, pricing, everything is in order, freight, it's all locked down solid, okay? But they're dealing with all of these different channels. Where do you start, Vicki? Like, where do you start with a client when they're just, I've got Loblaws, I've got Amazon, I've got everyone, like, help me, Vicki. Where do we start?
Yeah, they're at the oh my God point. I can't just do this all manually anymore. So first they start, with their Spire partner. Is they'll probably talk to the Spire partner about this. The Spire partner would say, oh, I believe we have a solution for you that can help. So they will introduce us. So what we do is, we're not here just to sell you something that you maybe do not need. So we take a consultative approach versus a sales approach. So we want to listen to what you do in your business, what your workflow is like, where are the different places you're receiving orders, how do you process them, what are all the things that you're doing? Because every business is unique. And fundamentally businesses are the same, but their workflows and the way they do the things are somewhat unique. So we want to understand that just to make sure what we have can accommodate what the needs are at this point. Not everybody's at the same point at the same time. So that's where we get started, really.
So Vicki, we talked about like EDI and Amazon and all this stuff, but really there may be customers out there who are just getting a slew of PDFs, POs from their customers, right? And they don't have a way to scan that PDF or to just, have all the information on that PO that's come to them as a PDF to pop in. Is that something that you guys do as well as, just let's say PDF orders or just Excel orders?
Yeah, so really OrderEase has a whole vast of functionality that we can do. So you can do one or all or some. It doesn't really matter too much. It's just like identify where the order sources are, identify where your pain points are. So maybe you get orders from your Shopify store, but you get maybe 3 a month. You don't necessarily have to integrate that. It's not that burdensome for you, but you're getting hundreds of PDF orders a month from your independent retailers or whoever you're getting them from, and you need help with that now. So we can take things bit by bit for you and help reduce that manual burden. Or maybe you just like, yeah, I'm done with manual. We just need to get her all done up. So regardless of where you want to go, what you want to start with, it doesn't impact how we connect to Spire.
Right.
So that's the cool thing.
Okay. In talking to a lot of end users in my career, people are very used to the way their software looks. They're very used to knowing where to go to find information. They're very used to their keyboard. The mouse is a great browsing tool. It's a horrible data entry tool. So, for those users who are used to Spire, they're used to their ERP. How easy is it to wrap your head around OrderEase or to access information in OrderEase?
Great question. So we have customers where in a fully integrated solution such as Spire, where it's very robust, there's, Spire has pretty much all the functionality. The only thing that really needs the help is how do you at scale connect to these channels and normalize the data. So in a fully integrated solution and function that way, often the supplier doesn't even need to log into OrderEase. They can do most things from Spire still. So, I mean, they're not going to change their pattern too much. We just get everything set up, get the workflows going, and they work, inspire, and do all the things, and it just automatically passes through. But there are some, I know, I love that word, we are automagical.
Yeah.
But there's some instances where, the interface is required. Maybe Spire can't accept something, again, for most cases, Spire can handle it all, but what if a customer wants to work with ShipStation versus having the shipping integrated with Spire? Well, we can do that, and then maybe they have to see something, or maybe there's something that they didn't receive or they're trying to troubleshoot. We have a really robust interface that they can go into, a dashboard. And the interesting thing about that is back in 2012 when OrderEase was started, we were actually built as a wholesale ordering solution for sales reps and independent retailers. So that's why we have this dashboard, and we're built with users at the forefront. So actually, you know what I'm going to do, Katie, if you don't mind, I'll give a quick overview of what our dashboard looks
Yeah,
like for your
I
face.
was I was saying, like, I want to see the dashboard, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just make you the presenter here. Vicky, you should get a message that says Katie's made you a presenter.
I have it. Okay.
Awesome. And there are your notes. We can see your notes and your inside message chat. So you might want to just
Oh, how
change
do
your
I
screen. You
pause
should
that?
see you should see show screen at the top of your go-to panel webinar and be able to
Yeah,
select the screen that you want to
screen
share.
of monitor
There
2.
you go. Perfect.
Wonderful.
Oh, nice dashboard, Vicky.
Well, thank you. Now I just have to figure out how to move this out of my way. I'm good. First time with GoToWebinar. Thank you, Katie, for the
You're
little
welcome.
tutorial here.
No problem.
And yes, everybody, I do use notes to make sure I say the right things. Okay, so when you log into OrderEase, you'll come to this dashboard. So in the dashboard, it's a really quick overview and snapshot of what's going on, of those orders that you've come in. You can do last 7 days, and then that's the default. And then you can do it, and sorry, my monitor's above me, so that's why I'm looking up.
That's okay.
And then you can choose this month, last month, or you can even do custom just to see what's going on. These group totals are totally configured by you if you want to see what the sales are based on groups. So you can put customers in a group, you can put sales reps in a group. So it just gives you a quick and easy overview of how that group of people or customers are performing. You can see unsubmitted orders. So when you're using it as a sales rep app or a retail customer, independent retailers are going in and placing orders in the catalog, and I'll show you that in a minute. But when that's happening, you can see where somebody started to build an order but hasn't submitted it. So this is a really great sales tool. So this kind of stalkery, but the salesperson can call up the customer saying, I see you started an order. Do you need some help? You know, you didn't submit it. You started a few days ago. Is there any questions that you might have? So it's really good intel and insights on that.
It's proactive sales, Vicky. It's not being a stalker. It's
Yes, right.
proactive
That's,
sales.
I like your words better.
Yeah.
So that there's that, and then there's new leads. So new leads are when say you have the link, or you know, I want to become a customer on your website, that can come in and they can view your public catalog, we call it. In the public catalog, they can't see pricing, but they can see the products you have to offer, and they can say request relationship, and then that's where you get a new lead, and you can, you know, use this as a bit of a lead gen tool to get new people on if you're using it in that manner. Again, don't have to, it's just part of the functionality that we have. So from there, you know, when you probably want to see what's going on with orders. So when you get orders in, there's a screen here. It gives you the high level of what the orders are, the whole list of the orders that have come in. Again, same filter at the top, so you can see a list of how many days you're looking at. You can filter here as well. So whatever you're looking for, if you're just looking for Home Depot orders or for a specific buyer, you can do a quick search and it'll just filter it down to what that is. And then when you're integrated, it will tell you all the different things that you're integrated with and what the status is of the communication with the solution you're integrated with. So we
So like,
integrate.
you mean like an Amazon or
Yeah,
your own, yeah. So not only your e-commerce, but like, let's say you're on Facebook Marketplace, or let's say you're on any of those, Shopify, whatever, right? So every channel that these orders are coming into, right?
exactly. And I do apologize. I know this is a Spire webinar, but our demo account has the NetSuite showing for the integration, but same.
For shame, for shame.
Same way it integrates. So anyway, we tell you the feedback, and this one says ShipStation. So because we're integrated with ShipStation, there's, you know, checks and balances and triggers that move the data around. So in an order, you can actually click on it and get the details of the order. So you
Are
can
you
see
wanting to show that, because we're still just looking at the dashboard? Do you want to drag that over into the window you're in?
Oh, well then, I'm in this, I don't know how to do that. Did you see the list of orders, or are you still seeing the dashboard?
We're just seeing the dashboard right now, Vicki. Yeah.
Oh, well, darn. Okay, let me figure out how to show my whole screen, not just the dashboard, because I was talking about stuff that you obviously couldn't see. So let
That's
me
okay.
just figure out
when we were
where?
talking about this earlier, we wanted to be able to show actual Spire data in that, but because a lot of the clients that Vicky does work with, Spire clients, are highly competitive industries, we're not able to share those numbers, folks. But I'm happy to make any referrals through your partners if you want to learn more about that. So there we go. Now we can see the list of products here and the
Oh,
orders. Good
wonderful.
stuff. Yeah.
I figured it. So there's two options. There's share screen 2 and there's share screen clean. And I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I got this. Okay, so what I was talking about, so let's go back. You saw the dashboard. This is the order screen that I was talking about where you see that whole list of orders, and that's where I
Right.
reference. Here is where you see everything that
That's it.
you're connected
Yeah.
with. So
Okay.
yes, thanks for pointing that out, Katie. It definitely helps
No
when you got
problem.
visual to the
It
words.
does. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you'll see that list of orders. This is where that filter is that I was talking about. And then when you have an order, you can click in and then you'll see the details of the order. Again, in a non-integrated environment, you can actually process the order and go in and confirm quantities. There's so much functionality, but we're not going to go there right now. But the bigger thing is you can see every different thing, all the different status changes and the time and date stamps of when those status changes happen, all the details of the order, and integration information. So if there's ever any troubleshooting, there's such an easy way to be able to see what's
What's
going on,
happened?
where, when,
Yeah.
how.
Nice. Very nice.
Again,
Good.
that's a bit more of the nerdy stuff side of it.
We're all a little nerdy here. That's okay. Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it. So from there, we have the order details, but I'll go into here. And again, this is where all of our integrations live. So where you can go and connect in everything.
Right.
So when we do Spire, again, I'm
Hey,
not
look
going
at
to
that.
connect.
Yeah.
You see the settings, and it's just, putting in a few bits of information to get the settings all done on how you want your orders to do, the shipments, invoice. So again, it's
It does look very user friendly.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So it's
Good.
like a out of the box integration, but it's customizable by little check
Right.
boxes that you do.
Well, thank you for bringing that up because, I was going to ask you, what does a typical implementation look like? But it sounds like, it's very dependent on the client's needs, right? So it can be a very basic level, it can be a very complex level, and it can be just for receiving PDF orders. It could be if you're connected to all those different marketplaces and different channels that we talked about. But essentially, if you go back to that dashboard for a second, I know we looked at it for a while, but really what I like here is that everything is centralized, right? You've got, your orders, you've got by representative, by salesperson, you've got new leads that are coming in if that's something that's important to you. So it's like a order management slash CRM slash EDI slash, multi-channel. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of different things that you could do with OrderEase and the integration into Spire. Vicki, tell me what one of the biggest challenges you guys solved for a customer. Like what was something that was pretty big that came across your desk in the Spire world that you were able to resolve for a Spire customer?
Yeah, well, actually, I have a couple of examples because, as I said, you can use any bit and piece of our system or the whole system. But we had one customer, and it really attested to the fact that you can leverage this single area. And they were a distributor, or they are still a distributor, and they're receiving an unmanageable amount of PDFs. So these were coming from various retailers. Most were, from multiple stores from a chain. So each different retailer had a different format of ordering. And on top of that, orders from that one retailer would be in eaches and another retailer would be in cases. So imagine getting those PDFs in where you're manually entering and you have to know, somebody has to know what way it has to get entered into Spire.
Right.
So with
right.
that is where the errors happen. And, somebody puts in a case, but the order was supposed to be in each, guess what? You're dealing with returns as well and credits. It becomes a bit of a nightmare. So for this customer, we provided our PDF processing services. So what we did was we mapped each unique type of PDF that they were getting from each of the different retailers that were receiving these PDFs from. And what we did was we mapped, and then we did some conversion in the back. So for the ones that were ordering in the wrong way that they needed to receive it in Spire, we did some converting of that. So when we scrape that PDF, but digitally scrape that PDF and then push it into Spire, nobody knew any different. So we reduced the orders, reduced the amount of time or the order errors, the amount of extra time dealing with these errors, and getting the orders in and ready to ship faster because, you know, you're not dealing with stacks of paper to deal with. So again, the best part of that solution is the retailer had no idea that anything had changed. They still just send their orders into the order desk. They just email them in as an attachment. And what they do at the distributor is they forward that email to OrderEase. They put an auto forward on. We pick up that PDF and just send it through our whole system, and it just shows up in Spire within minutes.
You make a really good point that I think sometimes businesses might feel, oh, it might be easier if we just tell our customers to do this from now on. But, you know, horses to water and they don't always drink, right? Like it's actually really hard to condition your customers to do things differently. And as much as it may seem like a huge undertaking, changing some of your own internal processes and mechanisms is actually easier. You have more control over that, right? So it's a very interesting point that you make. Thank you so much. So just to wrap up a couple of things. If a Spire customer or soon to be Spire customer wants to learn more about OrderEase and order automation, really, they should reach out to their Spire partner. And if they don't have a Spire partner, I can connect them with you and they can learn more about Spire that way. Implementation can be as simple or as robust, depending on what the customer's needs are. It doesn't have to be an all-in-one. It could be just PDF order intake, scanning, reading those PDFs right automatically into the system with no disruption to how your customers place orders. It can be as multi-channeled as Amazon, WooCommerce, Shopify, EDI, and others that I'm sure they can integrate a whole shipping system in that as well. And so much more, really. So I think it's a very robust solution, and I appreciate you sharing your time here with us today. I'm going to start wrapping things up a little bit here, folks, and I want to just let you know of a few things. I know that these are free webinars, so we're not really, getting into a whole bunch of things, but it's nice to just pick up a few tips and know what's available in the Spire world for you. This is the first of 9 that we're hosting this year. If you go to our Spire events page on our website, you'll be able to sign up for the webinars that are coming up next month. We're going to talk about workflow and document management, which is also an interesting topic and hot. Talk about on June 5th, inventory efficiency and warehouse management. Inventory and warehouse management, hand in hand, 2 different things though, right? So we'll talk about those things, and you'll see some of the other integration partners that are going to do webinars with us. I also want to let you know that if you are looking for more of a dive deep kind of opportunity in terms of learning Spire, you should check out our open houses that we're going to be having this fall. And Vicki, I believe that you are coming to each one of those open houses. So if anyone wants to talk to you and learn more about OrderEase, you will be in Winnipeg, you will be in Langley, you will be in Montreal, in Mississauga, and London. We're going to spend a lot of time together, you and I, Vicki, so that'll be fun. These open houses, folks, it'll be great. These open houses are dedicated to providing Spire learning and resources. It's a full day academy, okay? You've got a morning half that talks about what's new in Spire, what's come out in the last year, tips and tricks. There's time for folks like Vicki to share a little bit about their solutions as well. And then a full afternoon where we dive deep. And it's not all me, I promise you that. It also will be head of QA, director of quality assurance, our director of product information specialist, and myself. So you'll get some of the greatest minds there at Spire that you can talk to. It's Q&A as well. We feed you breakfast and lunch and a full day of Spire. The cost is $75. The registration is open, even though it's this fall. So go ahead and save your seat. Last year, we sold out in all 3 cities. So we added 2 more. And again, if you want to get deeper into Spire and your knowledge of Spire. Your partners are likely going to be there as well. So this is a really nice opportunity for you in addition to the webinars. And then one last thing I want to let you know about, if you either are a Spire client or you've been referred to by a Spire client, we do have our customer referral program that is available to everyone. And so if you are a Spire customer and you refer another business and that business does invest in Spire, you each get $500 off. So if you're an existing customer, we'll give you $500 off your annual software assurance. And if you're a new customer, we'll give you $500 off your purchase of Spire. So we appreciate word of mouth. That's where practically all of our customers come from. And so there's a little bit of stuff for you to do that. One other tip for you, if you're still online, in the handout section of your GoToWebinar panel, we've got some keyboard shortcuts. Earlier you heard me say the mouse is a great browsing tool. It's a terrible data entry tool. And so there's a little gift from us to you here today for sitting with us, a keyboard shortcuts PDF that'll help you a little bit more in your workflow. Check out our YouTube channel. There's a ton of stuff there. Our user manual is also very helpful. Everything is accessible through our website, www.spiresystems.com. I'm Katie Griffin. You're always welcome to email me with any questions that you have, kgriffin@spiresystems.com. Vicki, thank you so much for your time
Thanks for
again
having me.
today. Yeah, no, it was a real pleasure. And hopefully you'll get some more questions about OrderEase and how you can help Spire clients. So great. Thanks, everybody. Take good
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.